In this video I'm going to demonstrate how to checkmate with a bishop and a knight. I've been playing chess for a long time, but I didn't know how to do this until the other day when I watched this video by ChessNetwork, and I'll put a link to the video. He really describes very well this systematic approach to how to do it. So the first thing is you get your pieces centralized, then you get your king to closer to the corner, then you basically use the knight and the king to push the king out the corner, and then once you've done that you create a wall in this kind of position, and from there it's possible to force the king back. So I've practiced it a bit and I can probably do it in 1 minute. If I don't mess it up too badly somehow or other. I might have to record this again. Okay, so the king is in the corner, and now, oh bollocks, I have to move the king there to force it out the corner, and then you get them to there. Wasted a fair few moves, but I got that. Okay, so 50 moves. That's not necessarily the most efficient. So now what I'm going to do is do the same thing again, but I'm just going to give myself a lot more time to just explain like the process and maybe do it a little bit more accurately. So yeah, the first thing is you get your king into the corner. No, you develop your pieces into the center. And you want the bishop in front. I gave the computer a bit too long because it's actually thinking about the moves. Right, so now you've got the king on this square. You want to get the knight onto this square. If the king was in the corner, this would be a bad move. So if it was black to move here, it would be stalemate. So you have to avoid that. So now that's according to the process in the video, two-stage process, and now the next thing is you just get your pieces back to create to these two squares, and it's because this long diagonal is the one you're operating in to try and keep the king in this corner. So that's kind of how you're confining it. And the bishop and knight is actually creating a wall here. Not there. So now what you want to do is get this king to have to move backwards, and you leave the knight where it is, but the bishop, it can move up here so long as your king, his king, isn't as close as this. So if the king's further away than that, it can, because it'll be able to get back in time. So you combine with the bishop and the knight, and the king. So there's a wall here. Okay. So now he could just move back and forth here, and that would be a problem. Except that because this king is more than 2 squares away here, you're actually safe to move this bishop, because it can always just step back. So you can move it here, and then if the king moves here, you just step it back again. So you keep the wall. Oh well, a king can't go there, but so it's actually going to take a couple of moves for it to get close enough for it to. But anyway, you can keep the wall here intact if you move the bishop, and that's key to stopping the king moving back and forth. Now he'll step closer, probably step this way, because he's going to try and escape out here. So now you go back here again, and that just keeps the wall here. Now you don't have to worry about this square, because the bishop is going to come here, and that will guard that square. Okay, at the moment the bishop can't go there because the king is too close. So just make a move with the king. Right, now I get bishop on this diagonal. And just reposition the bishop. Okay, so the king is being annoying because really the next step now, we've got the bishop to the right square, because we want to get the bishop here and the knight here. But we can't do that now because the king will escape via this square, so we make a waiting move with the bishop. So now the king's forced to move back to one of these two, but this square is safe just for temporarily. You can move the knight back, and now if he goes back there, he's still in time. So now the knight's covering that, and the bishop, with the bishop as well. There's a wall here. Now I just always put the bishop there, because this is kind of the final wall that you want. And now these squares are all blocked, so the king is stuck in this little box here. So now the next bit is just to move the king around, and it's got to go all the way to here to push the king back. Right, and now could just keep moving back and forth, and he'll just keep moving back and forth, So again, you've got to use the bishop. And notice this square is guarded by the knight, and this square is guarded by the bishop. So now with the king there, we're ready. The final box. We don't need the knight to guard this square anymore, because the king's guarding it, and the king is stuck in these two squares basically. So now it's just a question of not playing them in the wrong order, because obviously if you play knight here it's stalemate, so you don't do that. And from here you just go check, check and mate. So that's it, that's how you do it. So the wall here is kind of, so you get the king to this corner, and then you get this, use the pieces here and here to make a wall, and then from there you do sort of transferring method to get the wall here and here, and then the king, so that creates a wall there, and then the king moves around. So, and the key thing is that you can use the bishop to help force the king back, and you can also use the bishop just moving it along around on this diagonal until the king just deserts this square, when you need to move the knight from here to here. And also earlier on here, use the bishop because the knight and bishop are still covering these squares, and the king is covering these squares. So when the bishop goes here, it covers that square as well, and then the king is forced back to one of these two squares. So yeah, I found this video by ChessNetwork very helpful because it's a very sort of systematic approach, and regardless of what black plays or what the lone king plays, because obviously it might be white or black, it still works. So there's always a way to do this checkmate, because if the king went the other way, then you go, instead of going with the bishop to this square and the knight here, you'd go bishop to this square and knight here to make the same wall on this side, and then you'd be forcing the king back this way into this corner, but it's exactly the same.